Brought to you by Penguin.
The Art of Uncertainty, written and read by me, David Spiegelhalter. To chance, luck, fate, destiny, karma, the goddess Fortuna, or whatever it is that gave me my wonderful partner, family, friends, and colleagues. Introduction. I returned and saw under the sun that the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, nor bread to the wise, nor riches to men of understanding, nor favour to men of skill, but time and chance happen to them all. Ecclesiastes, chapter 9, verse 11, New King James Bible. It was the 29th of January 1918, and the 35-year-old gas officer for British 104th Brigade, Ypres section, started off on another day's inspection duties north of Passchendaele on the Western Front. The appalling battles of the previous year in that area, which cost around 250,000 casualties on each side, had left a desolate landscape of mud and ruins. His routes were by roads and trenches that had been pinpointed by German artillery, and in the 6 weeks he had been in post, his diary had variously recorded, "Narrow escape on return journey. Lucky to get through in time. Artillery strafe." On that day he visited Eagle Trench near the front line, but on the way back he was, as he termed it later, blown up, and ended up in a field dressing station. He was then taken by ambulance to No. 64 Casualty Clearing Station. It appeared as if his luck had run out. But had it? This gas officer was my grandfather, Cecil Spiegelhalter, and ironically, his experiences that day turned out to be very fortunate. After his injury, he was categorized as unfit for frontline duties and spent the rest of the war well behind the lines. Meanwhile, his old battalion, 18th Lancashire Fusiliers, was moved to the Somme, a supposedly quiet area after the battles of 1916, which cost around 1 million casualties. But they were just in time to face the massive spring offensive of 1918, fighting a desperate rearguard action and then going over the top in vain attempts to recapture territory. He had been lucky the previous year as well. He had been made a second lieutenant, the most dangerous rank in the army, requiring him to be first up the ladder in an attack and to encourage his men to follow. But he got a severe fever and was recuperating at Thurtle Bridge camp in Yorkshire while his battalion was engaged in some of the worst fighting of the war. My grandfather was on the British side. Although his father had been an indentured economic migrant from Germany, Cecil was a proud Yorkshireman who saw no need to anglicise his name to Salter, as other Spiegelhalters had done, and his ancestry came in useful when he taught German in the British Staff College in Cologne in 1919. After being blown up, he was classified as having disordered action of the heart, DAH, also known as soldier's heart, a condition with acute symptoms but no apparent organic cause. It later became known as shell shock. Incidentally, a fellow officer at Thurtle Bridge camp was a certain J.R.R. Tolkien, who was also recovering from his trench experiences in 1916. Of course, if one of those shells had fallen a bit closer, or if he had had to lead his men into attack, I would probably not be here to tell the story. And this is only one of the long chain of fortuitous events that led to my existence. My mother being captured by pirates in the South China Sea and later evacuating from Shanghai in 1937 under shell fire. My parents meeting in the war. My father closely avoiding plane crashes in the RAF and then nearly dying of tuberculosis. Then, when a cold snap hit the UK in November 1952, they were living in a barely heated stone cottage with no television and nothing to do but go to bed early to keep warm. And here I am. I don't think it makes much sense to try to assess a numerical probability of each of us being born. All we can say is that, like everything else that happens in this immeasurably complex world, each of us is the result of an unforeseen and unforeseeable sequence of small occurrences, or micro-contingencies. But what underlies and drives this fragile chain of events? Our feelings about this question depend on our philosophy and even our spiritual beliefs.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?